So, Carrie, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have you on here. So, we've not known each other for very long, have we?
No, we haven't. We met through a mutual friend.
We did, and we hit it off straight away. And I think our
Yes.
first conversation was about an hour. We had a
One of those
quick
quick hellos.
That was it. Yeah, quick 20-minute chat that lasted an hour. And immediately I was like, Carrie, you need to come on the podcast. And she was like, yeah, I'd love to. So Carrie, the Body Geek, which I just love the title. I have given you an intro now, but just kind of in your own words, tell the audience what it is that you do in your own personal way.
Ooh, yes, as you say, I'm a body geek. So I'm one of those people that has always been endlessly fascinated by people. So even as a little kid, about people watching, whenever I've traveled, it's all about the food, but it's always about the people as well, and just like drinking it all in. So I'm fascinated by our behavior. I'm fascinated by what holds us back and why we hold ourselves back. And I'm fascinated about how all of this plays into people's bodies. I have this this game I play whenever I'm walking down the street, where I'll be watching people in front of me and watching how they move and watching where that glitch is in their body. I can't help myself because it's just endlessly interesting, like the stuff that we carry and how we kind of go about our way in the world. So yeah, that's kind of what that's kind of like me. And then I bring all of that into my work. One as a myofascial therapist, which is kind of like a turbocharged massage therapist, where I'm interested in the connective tissue in the body, but then also bringing it into my mentoring. So we're looking at how we store old beliefs and old gunk in our bodies and in our thought processes, and how we can work with those two things together to like really sort of release the old rubbish which isn't serving us, and actually start bringing into our lives those things that we really love doing and we really want to be doing. So that's, yeah, kind of a brief overview of how I work.
I know it's really hard to explain, because I think that was the key was us. I think we connected so much because we're both, like you said, fascinating on how so many different things. So for me, a lot of it comes from food and nutrition, but then it's, our lifestyle, how we live our lives. I mean,
Yeah.
I love what we bathe, our environment, we bathe our bodies in. And then, the things that you said, I'm like, oh goodness, this kind of worked with me as well. When I speak to clients often, I'm thinking, well, yeah, I can help them with that. I can help them with the nutrition. I can help them with that. But I know there's other stuff going on. And as soon as I spoke to you, I'm like, yeah, this really resonates with me. I love that term gunk. It's kind of stuff that we just carry around with us, don't we?
And we
Baggage.
don't even realize, yeah, it's the old stuff. And when you say bathing in that environment, like, it's exactly that. That's it, isn't it? It's like, how do we how don't we support ourselves in our lives, and how do we support ourselves in our lives? It's like, what are the crutches? And I find it so interesting listening to your conversations on the podcast about how it's so much about our beliefs affects how we pick our foods. And for me, it's very much about how we feel we're worthy, or how we feel as though we're enough to take responsibility for ourselves and to love ourselves. How that then really plays into not just how we like outwardly present in our body, but also how we inwardly present with how we feel about our body, but also how we feel about pain. And whether it's pain with like a physical background, or whether it's what one of my clients amazingly calls head pain, where she knows she's got pain in her body, but actually it's coming more from how she feels about her body. And I think that's the wonder, isn't it? It's like we have so many options and so many variables, whether it's exercise, or whether it's just plain movement, or whether it's food, or whether it's the people that we hang out with, that all of it has such an interplay into our lives. And it's just, yeah. Oh.
It is. Yeah, totally. And I think, that's the key, isn't it? Kind of like, one of the things that I kind of thought about immediately. So I'm sitting here at the moment, Carrie, I don't mind telling you, I'm sitting here at the moment, and I've had a really stressful few weeks, and I've got pain in my neck. And honestly, literally, I didn't even think about it until I started to talk to you. And immediately as you start to do it, and we're going to do a little exercise in a minute, but I've done some of your stuff, and it immediately made me think, yeah, actually, I've got pain in my neck just because I've been a bit stressed recently and stuff. And I know it's not, is it head pain? Is it not pain? But I can see why the massage, the deep massage, and then the whole body and the mentoring thing comes together, because, that head and neck pain, that is a reflection of something that's going on in my head, not something that's going on in my body, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that moment of when we're under pressure, we go into this kind of almost like it's a defense position. So we kind of bring ourselves forward and in, but it's also a concentration position. And because we spend so much more of our lives sat down, because we spend so much of our lives focusing on a screen, we end up in this kind of like head drawing forwards position. So your brain interprets that as a defense because you're coming in, you're kind of trying to cover up your soft bits, but then also that's like creating a kind of a loop, isn't it, where you then have to kind of allow yourself to come into a more grounded, centered, confident place. Oh, the cat's arrived. Yeah.
It's not a child, it's a cat.
It's a cat. I'm sure you'll see him in a minute. And that then allows you to like reset the position of your body, which then allows you to take that neck misalignment out of the situation, which then also allows you to open up your ribs, settle into your pelvis, ground into your feet, and then you become way more connected top to bottom, you know, sky to earth. It's both of those things.
Yeah, and I suppose the thing is the same as with nutrition. There's no point just fixing one. So there's no point me just going for a neck massage and going, oh, I've got a bad neck, can you do? Actually, I need to do some head work as well, because that's kind of reflecting, isn't it? And I think that for me is the power of what you do is connecting to such important things, but they both reflect in each other, don't they? Yeah, it's so powerful.
Here's the other cool thing about, so the body work that I do, I always kind of think of fascia work as being super stealthy, because it's not about big, powerful movements. It's actually about, in the same ways we look at diet in its entirety in the work that you do, but it's about looking at the body in its entirety. So it's going, okay, so your head is, your neck is sore, your head is forward out of alignment, but what's going on further down the chain? What else do we need to tweak? So actually you find being sat more comfortable. You find that so much of our stress is held through our hips and it's held through our jaw. And then that refers through our bodies. So the neck is actually possibly more to do with this clench, concentration, but it's also to do with being short and tight through the front of our hips, which then stops us from having as much, I always call it slink, having less slink in our body. And it's that ability to feel kind of slinky and be able to move with situations is really important as well. Can we do a little exercise to show how body and mind's connected?
Yeah, I think this is really, so I've done this before, and I'm going to, so if you're watching, obviously this is a podcast, so most people will listen to, but we always record them, and so it'll be on YouTube as well. But I'm going to move away from the mic now. So I've got my headphones on. I've done this with Carrie before, and I love this. I'll come back and I'll go, wow, it's amazing, even though I've done it before. So I need to say to you guys, so if you are listening to this on the podcast or you are watching it on YouTube, and it's safe to do so, do this. Obviously, if you're driving or if you're walking in the fields and and there's lots of people around, you might not choose to do this, but do it when you get back. It's really powerful. So I'm going to move away, Carrie, so they won't be able to hear me. So you have the mic for the time being. So off you go and tell us what to do.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, if you're doing this sat down, I want you to get your feet firmly placed on the floor. And if you're doing it stood up, same thing. Try and think about having the weight equally distributed foot to foot. Okay. What we're going to do is a test, first of all. So you're going to bring your arm up in front of you, straight horizontal to the ground, and you want to be thinking about moving with your ribs. Okay, so your hips are going to face forwards, but your ribs are going to turn. So first of all, come into, if you're holding up your right arm, come around to your right. And what you should be doing is keeping your eyes on your fingertips. So just showing that again. So you're coming around, rotating through your ribs, eyes are following your fingertips, and you're just going to come back to a place which feels like, yeah, that's as far as my body likes to travel. And we're going to come back to the middle, and then we're going to raise the other arm and swap over. So fingers, eyes on fingertips, moving from your ribs. So you're not just swinging your arm around, and you're going to see how far, pop plant. Always good to have a pot plant on your desk. You're just going to see how far around you can rotate, and you're going to come back to center. So that's our control. That's just how you are right here, right now, in whatever is going on in your world. Okay, so take a moment, again, feet firmly on the floor, and allow yourself to go into a really happy place. Now, you might want to bring up a happy memory. You might want to think about a situation which makes you feel really good or really vital, something which really brings a smile, like an inside smile and an outside smile. So when you've got inside that real kind of sense of happiness, of joy, of like lightness, of everything, you're going to bring your arm out again and we're going to retest. So whichever arm you're going to bring up in front of you first is the direction you're going to travel. So keeping that sense, that feeling, that powerful, happy, positive sense of emotion inside of you. Looking at your fingertips, you're going to rotate again, following with your ribs, keeping your hips still as you can. And then you're going to come back to the middle. And then you're going to raise your other arm, keeping that happy, joyful, powerful emotion in you. And you're going to go and spin the opposite direction, keeping looking at your fingertips. That's it. So you're just going as far as it feels comfortable to go. And then you're going to come back to the middle. Alrighty, now we're going to switch. This time, take a moment and see if you can drop yourself into somewhere which feels emotionally heavier. So a stressful situation, or bring yourself into a memory of a day where everything just went wrong, as though everything felt really heavy in your world. So you can choose how deep into that sense you want to go. You might want to keep it like a relatively meh, but you might find that you're okay with going into a more powerful negative kind of memory. Yeah, whatever you feel comfortable with, go there. When you have that sense in your head, bring your arm back up, keeping your eyes on your fingertips. I was going to say your fingertips on your eyes, don't do that. And now we're going to move to the left, so keeping that heavy sense, or the right, whichever arm you have up. So same thing, moving with the ribs, keeping that heaviness. Come back into the middle, bring up your opposite arm, and keeping that heavy sense, that feeling, just go and travel in the opposite direction, and then come back in the middle. What did you find, Wendy?
Wow. So I have to say, I knew I'd say wow. I need to lift myself back up again. For me, I have to say, Carrie, the thing for me is actually the negative emotion is the most powerful part of that. The positive one, I move a bit more, not massively, but the negative, I can barely turn my body. It is absolutely amazing. I feel no different, as in physically. I literally, I can't, I move maybe 20 degrees. I'm barely, literally, I'm almost facing forward still. It is phenomenal. And I think that's the power of just literally thinking about something when you're moving
like that.
It like that. I'm feeling no different. Actually, I didn't feel pain or anything. It wasn't, it's not woo-woo where you go, oh yeah, you're going to get a pain around your left hand side, isn't it? I just literally, I couldn't move any further without forcing it. There was no more movement. That to me is amazing. And that, I think, if nothing else, that shows the amazing power of the body.
That we
and
have
mind, I suppose, the mind and body.
That we have the control at the click of a fingertip to change how we move in our bodies by just putting our point of perspective in one place or the other. So if you think about, there's that term, isn't there, about fake it till you make it. And I'm always a bit like, but sometimes actually just knowing that you have the power to conjure up a more positive place can really change your situation. That you have that little tool that allows you then to take the next step and take the next step and take the next step and take the next step. And that small moment can be quite transformative because it allows you to see how much power you have just within yourself.
Yeah, there's that whole
positive.
Exactly. And I think that's the whole positive, like we talk about positive mental attitude, don't we? But I think there's an element of it. I do something, my husband laughs at me, but you'll get this. So I'm not a very good skier. I was very late to ski. I'm not a very good skier, but I do really enjoy it. But sometimes I will just get into like a fug and I'm like, and I can't move, nothing's going in the right way. And I'll just stop and I give myself a good talking to. And I'm like, come on, Wendy, you can do this. Attack the slope. And then I ski down and I can ski amazingly just from stopping and saying, come on, you got this.
Yeah. And it's whatever it takes, isn't it? It's that you can talk sweetly to yourself, or you can you could give yourself the real big kind of hoo-ha pep talk. It's like whatever it takes just to shift how you feel. Can I tell you a slightly woo story?
Yeah, I love it.
Bit of woo. Okay, so a couple of years ago, I was setting up a new studio, and I decided in my infinite wisdom that I was going to build the studio myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So it part of it involved.
Do you know I'm ex-building trade, by the way?
Oh, you know, useful lady to know.
Okay, yeah. I can talk the talk. I can't do the do.
I can't talk the talk. I'm like, I need a thing of me that connects to whatchamacallit to do with whatchamacallit. But if you give me a saw, no good with power tools, rubbish with power tools. If you give me a saw, I can build a stud wall, it turns out.
Ooh.
But here's the thing that I found. If I was in a funk and I was trying to chop wood, it would always go massively wrong. However, if I was to pick a word like love or happiness, so I do this intention thing where I write my intentions onto everything that I want to create. So within all of these walls, there would be a intentional word written. So it would be happiness or healing or health or positive expectations or release from my highest best, all that kind of woo stuff. But I would write them with pencil on the pieces of wood. I'd mark where the piece of wood had to be chopped, and then I would get in my head that little intention. And seriously, the saw slides so much more smoothly. I've been building a thing for my kids' school Christmas fundraiser, again out of wood, and I was getting myself into all sorts of a jam with this new saw. But I found that if I started singing happy Christmas songs in my head, the saw moves smoothly. And it's exactly the same thing. It's I can continue to be in a fug and the saw's ripping through the wood, or I can put myself in that chilled out, blissed up, having a laugh, happy energy. And it's not exactly like, it doesn't change the energy of the saw. It doesn't like do anything to the saw, but because I'm more relaxed, because I'm more in my happy place, everything goes more smoothly. It's like positive mindset 101. It's just,
I love that bit of woo. That's brilliant. I think, we still don't understand everything about the body, do we? And it is amazing. We both know that. And I get that. To me makes sense that they're kind of like, if you're more in the moment, if you're more relaxed, that the connection is going to be better, that the brain to the arm connection to that kind of motion is going to be better. Tell me about your coaching. So how do people generally find you? Do you, because obviously they're quite, although I get that they go together, and I hope that people listening to this podcast now get how the deep massage and the coaching goes together. How do people who don't know you find you? How do they get you? Did they come one way or the other, both ways? How does that work?
I think the majority of my massage clients would probably agree that I've been mentoring them for as long as I've been massaging them. But naturally what comes up, because my fascial work is deep, but it's stealthy deep. So it's not deep pressure, it's actually really gentle pressure, but it tricks the brain into a healing response. But also quite often what comes up is that the memory stored at the time of that trauma, of that injury, of that stressful situation, the chemical memory also comes into play. So as you release the tissues, you're releasing all this old chemical gunk.
Yeah.
So quite often people start talking about stuff that happened and they're not quite sure why they're talking about it or where it's come from or why they're suddenly thinking about X, Y, or Z. And there was this natural process where, as we work through the gunk of the body, the old memory gunk, the belief gunk would come up. And so we'd naturally start working our way through that and finding better ways to deal with that and better ways to kind of think about our lives. And what I've found now, especially in this crazy year, is that I have the ability to do that virtually as well. So I teach a lot of self-treatment, self-care. It's like that old Ruth Paul thing. If you ain't going to love yourself, then nobody else is going to.
Totally.
So it's that idea of, if you can take responsibility for your own care, if you can give yourself that gift of getting curious about the gunk, then you can also get curious about the mindset. So some people come to me because they've heard me on things like this, like a podcast, and they're like, ooh, curious. And some people come to me because they've heard of me about the body work, and then it's that. People who are listening to the podcast can't see that basically there is a weaving of the hands.
Yes, I'm a very hands person as well. So I'm just nodding, going, yeah, yeah. And I'm not even thinking, yeah, I'm always waving my hands around. And when I do solo podcasts, I'm always laughing, saying, you can't see me like making these weird faces and shapes and things. But yeah, but it is, I love, you do that a lot. You do the wavy thing a lot. And you talk a lot about kind of slinkiness. And I think that's really something that is really key to how you work, isn't it? That kind of, that wave movement, like you said, the myofascial, it's, you know, it's very deep tissue, but actually it's connective, isn't it? So if that doesn't work properly, we are quite stiff, aren't we?
Yeah. And the fact that we're connected from head to toe, that, you know, that from the sole of your foot up the back of your leg, up the back of your butt, your back, all the way back, all the way across the top of your skull to your eyebrow is one sheet of fascia. All of your bones, all of your organs, everything. So diagonally we're connected, top to bottom we're connected, through the middle we're connected. So there's so much power in that tissue. You know, it's like we have, it's like a corkscrew. I mean, what's it? There's an art term for it. Da Vinci used to make his sculptures, and quite often they'd have this contra something force through them. So it gives the viewer the impression of movement and life. And so through us we have like this amazing amount of spiral force that's just waiting to spring into action. Oh God, humans are just amazing. And yes, you're right that we don't understand a lot about how we're made up, but when we allow ourselves to get curious, we can really start to feel into how it works for us on an individual level. And that's also where it gets exciting, that no two people are the same.
Yeah. And I think as well, I would say, thinking about things, what I want to come back to is how you said, like, it's all one. And I think this is part of our, I don't like saying things like problem, because that's a very negative word, but I think we don't appreciate, many of us, that actually we see ourselves individual. Like, I've got eye ache, so can I have something for my eye? Or my toe's hurting, so I need something to fix my toe. But we don't remember that actually that's connected to your foot, that's connected to your ankle, that's connected to your calf. You know, we just see it as a like an independent thing, and that's not how it works, is it?
No. Quite often, one of the things that surprises my clients most is the amount of questions I ask. And they can come in saying that they've got back pain, and I'll be asking them about their dental work, and they'll be like, but why are you interested in how many implants I've had in my teeth, and, you know, how many fillings I've had? And it's because it's all connected. Because if your jaw's tight, that's going to be pulling through the body to your hip. If your hips are tight, that's going to be changing the position of your kneecap, which is then going to change the force through your ankle, which is then going to give you bunions or heel pain. And it's that magic that we can reclaim for ourselves. We're so good at outsourcing, aren't we? We're so good at saying, I need a doctor to fix this, or I need a chiropodist to fix my feet. But when we look at how it's all like connected up together, I don't know. I think that there is a holistic alternative which you provide and my work provides, which just, it can really ignite something in a human beyond just feeling better in their bodies.
Totally. Well, we in naturopathic nutrition, we talk about kind of building resilience in the host. So the best form, and I'm not talking about COVID, this is pre-COVID. So, but the best form of attacking a virus is by ensuring the health of the host, i.e. ourselves. We are the host. We're hosting many viruses, throughout our lives at all times. And then if we get an attack from something else, if we are stronger, then that's more powerful. And I think you're the same thing, really, isn't it? It's kind of like, we are going to suffer injury, when, like, exercise is a form of attack on the body, but we need to do that. Stretching is good, but we can overstretch. It's a very fine balance. But actually, if we can, like you said, if we're all individual and can understand ourselves better, then we are better placed to deal with that injury should it occur, and also know where it is, isn't it? Recognize.
Yeah. And also, I think it's about understanding as well that our bodies have evolved slower than our society has. So our modern everyday activities are alien to our bodies. Our bodies are made for three-dimensional movement. They're made for rotation. They're made for picking up heavy things. They're made for stamina and endurance. And yet we treat them very two-dimensionally. We stand up, we sit down, sometimes we reach over there. But we don't really often use that full range of our bodies. We don't use all of our strength. And then we expect to be able to go out and do a 90-minute spin class, or we expect to go and run a marathon after 4 months training. And we put our bodies through this amazing amount of pressure. And I always come back to this idea that if we allow ourselves to be playful, if we allow ourselves to be curious, then we kind of find those pockets of gunk and we can work them out. Like you're saying with nutrition, that it's about strengthening the host. It's exactly the same thing. It's like, how do we stop ourselves being so serious about our lives and thinking about things in terms of, like, it's almost like an exercise binge when you're training for something. It's like, how do we stop ourselves being so serious and so focused and actually allow ourselves to get playful and enjoy our bodies and be like, ooh, well, I need to reach that thing over there, but maybe if I like reach this away for it, if I can't, it's like that.
Yeah, I like
exploring the slink.
Yeah, exploring the slink. Love that. And I think maybe one of the positives from lockdown has been that perhaps we are understanding movement in a different way. So I was guilty of this in my past life, whereas I would sit at the computer for many hours. I mean, I did have quite a physical job sometimes as well, but if I was in the office, I'd be sitting at the computer for 8 hours, and then I would then think, oh gosh, I've got to move, so I'll go and, like you said, and do a spinning class, or a HIIT class or something, and kind of half an hour, get that done. Now I've done that, I've done my movement, come home, eat tea, sit on the sofa.
Yep.
Tick the boxes.
Tick box.
And actually I think I've realized perhaps earlier is I now do a lot of yoga, I do a lot of walking. I do not a great deal. I occasionally do a bit of running, but mostly it's yoga and sort of walking and just moving a lot more throughout the day. And I think I am fitter and in a better physical condition now than I was 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that people have learned that through COVID, kind of just walking daily for an hour, how powerful that is for your body.
Yeah. And also you can turn that from just being physical exercise into emotional and mental nutrition, because then you can take that, because we were both kind of tick boxing,
yeah.
we were talking a bit of that, and we were both making that kind of tick box movement, because sometimes we do feel like, yeah, get it done, but actually if we slow that pace down, like we take an hour's walk but we slow it down, so we're not traveling the same amount of distance, but if we use that time to be more aware through our senses, so it's like, can we hear the birds sing? What does the air feel like on our faces? Can we roll from the heel through the ball of the big toe so we create more power in that step? What does it feel like if we're walking up a hill swinging our arms? What does it feel like if we don't swing our arms? That kind of curiosity then gives us that headspace, because quite often what we'll do is we'll stick on a podcast. Oops. This one's great though.
No, I agree. I was going to say that actually. Yeah.
We get like channeled, don't we? We go, right, this has to happen. Let's go. But if we allow ourselves to just be like, ooh, I've never walked down that road, or what happens if we try to do this? That's that mental nutrition, and that's the emotional nutrition that so many of us are craving right now. There was a lot of studies which went on through lockdown which talked about how our lack of human contact to each other, our lack of physical touch, was creating a huge it was creating like a huge chemical deficit in our bodies, that we weren't getting that oxytocin hit, that idea that when we hug somebody else, I think it's like for 20 seconds or something arbitrary like that, but we create this oxytocin connection chemical hit in our brains, which makes us feel more positive. So COVID took that away from us. So it's like, how can we reconnect to own bodies, how can we use those just tiny pockets, just little windows during the week where we find those moments where and this is where it comes, all the old kind of stereotypes come in, you know, when you actually connect to yourself, when you touch to yourself, you either sound like a perv or a hippie. But also what you're doing is you're giving yourself this huge chemical boost, which is so important for each and every one of us.
And I think, do you think also being aware of it as well? It's some of the things that I've talked about to clients is saying, it's okay not to be okay. And, it's been a weird time, and actually it's okay to kind of admit to people and say, or just admit to yourself and say, you know what, I'm not feeling okay today.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, I wanted to hug myself as you were saying. I thought, yeah, I have missed hugging. I have missed hugging my friends. But yeah, that kind of just recognizing that today it's a little bit low, and actually then adjust what you're doing to be respectful of how you're feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because it's like having, as I always call it, it's like having a knobbly bobbly toolkit of self-care. So it's like knowing what's just going to like take it up a notch. Doesn't have to shift you all the way up into happy, happy, joy, joy, but just knowing that if you're feeling low, that there are fail-proof things that always work for you. So for me, it's going for a walk, but not just going for any old walk. It's going for a walk in the woods, being around big trees, or it's about having a bath, or it's different for each and every one of us. Some people need really active things, and some people need really soft things, and also having that array. So some days for me, it's like half an hour on the sofa watching an episode of Queer Eye, and then other days it's taking our crazy pandemic puppy out for a good old run through the field. And that's another part of it, isn't it? That's why so many people got pandemic puppies, because they were craving that connection, the contact, and being able to hug on something when there were so few options for many of us. You can see why it's become such a huge phenomenon, the pandemic puppy.
Oh, bless. What have you got? I've got a little Jack Russell. We had him before the pandemic, but what have you got?
We have a Romanian rescue dog.
Oh,
she's bigger than we expected.
She turns out to say that.
Not the first person. She is we think a Belgian Malinois, which is a kind of a sheepdog. She looks wolf-like. She's gorgeous, and she has the nicest personality.
Oh, that's the main thing, isn't it? That's it. But yeah, I think, I always knew I was a social animal, but I never realized quite how much I relied on that social contact until it was kind of taken away from me. So my office is now at home, and I've settled in now. I've had it decorated. I've settled in. I'm quite comfortable. But for quite a long time, I really struggled with that whole working from home, because I was used to, I'd always had an office. Even when I changed my job, I purposefully rented an office space. So there was always, I was in the yoga studio for it. That was my favorite. So there's people coming in and out, and I could hear the yoga classes sometimes going on. And it was just that being in an environment where other people were, even if I wasn't necessarily, sort of talking to them and stuff, I was amazed how much I missed that.
Yeah. I'm a really kinesthetic person, so being a hands-on therapist is like the perfect role for me. So in lockdown, even though the husband would be like, so can I get on your massage couch then? and I have a little girl who loves being hugged, but I really miss that interaction, and also it's the treasure hunt part of being a kinesthetic that I love, that everybody feels different under your hands, and so you kind of get a different kind of feedback off people. That experience of touch was like hugely missed.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Of course, yeah, as a hands-on therapist. So you've been able to kind of change your practice a bit and work online, which is amazing. So has that been fun, kind of exploring that side?
Yeah, it has. Because at first you go, oh, how does that translate? I've been a massage therapist for 20 years, which means I've been asking questions out of people for 20 years. So I've developed like really good listening skills, but I always say that I see through my hands and also through my ears, because it's always about the answers. It's always about that. Ooh, what else is going on? I never just use my eyes to look. It's always, probably as you find with nutrition, there's always more to the story. And so I will definitely get into a hawk-like, gimlet-eyed mode when I'm on a Zoom call with a client and be like, what's that then? What's going on there? Like how's that connecting into that? And what was that shift in position or energy when you started talking about this rather than that? So you just translate the treasure hunt into a different style. I'm sure you found the same, that there is a nuance that you've picked up from your clients working virtually rather than being in the room with them.
Yeah, but you have to be, you have to, like you said, you have to be really wide-eyed. You have to be much more connected. Whereas, I think, I was saying the same thing again, but we are amazing. And so I think we feel things, energy. So when I'm talking to a client, if I ask them a question about something, so the same as you, I go back quite a long way in history. I talk a lot about different body systems. So someone might come to me and say, I can't sleep. And then I'll start talking to them. I'll ask them if they've got rashes, for example, or they've suffered with eczema and things. And they kind of look at me like, what's that got to do with my sleep? But it has, and it might. And you get you get an energy feel, I think, sometimes when you ask someone something, if it's not necessarily what they say, it's a feeling that you get, and you're like, there's something going on.
There's something there.
Yeah.
And then you follow it. You're off, aren't you? It's like, where are we going? What's going to happen next? What's going to be underneath? Yeah. And then that's, I think one of the first times we met, I was talking about Ida Rolf and her amazing quote of, where you think it is, it ain't. So it's this idea that what we're always looking at is the superficial layer, which is generally like a symptom of something more underlying. And that's where it gets exciting as like holistic therapists, that we suddenly get to go on this treasure hunt. We get to go under the symptoms, under the surface, and you get to chase and follow. And it's amazing, that revealing process. And it's amazing what transformation it can create in your client, that they are given that opportunity to be held in such a, it's a real space of I was going to say intense quizzicality, isn't it? Like, to be really like allowed to go through your stories and to really explore what's going on, and to be held in such a way that is safe for you to be able to go and take that, which means that you can reveal what happened 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or when you're a child and you hadn't even realized that there was a glitch, that it was gunky. But when you feel as though you're really trusted and supported by your holistic therapist, you let yourself go there. And that's a beautiful thing to be able to support somebody with.
It's amazing. And actually the word that I was thinking of, and you said it halfway through, that was transformation. And I think for me, that's the thing is, I'll see some clients and, it's very sudden. It's, the next meeting we'll have with them like 3 weeks later, they're physically, they are holding, I don't do anything, any kind of body work, but they are holding themselves differently. They're brighter, they're lighter, their eyes, and immediately you can see it. So you must see it as well. And so kind of, it must be amazing to see that kind of if people are coming to you with a lot of pain, and obviously often it's emotional as well, to allow them to work with them further. So how long, I know how long's a piece of string, but like how long would you kind of normally work with a client for, or how long do you enjoy working with them for? Because obviously this is pain to then kind of life, isn't it? There's so much going on. So
when I think about the clients that I love working with most, what tends to happen is we'll work for a block of like 6 weeks over quite a close period of time. And then they tootle off. And then when they're ready to reveal the next layer, or when they decide that they want to step up bigger in their lives or their businesses, they come back and we'll do another 6 weeks. And so there's that kind of continuous process of exploration, scintillation, and processing, and that it happens for everybody at a very different rate. But having those gaps in between seeing clients is so important, to allow them to process it and allow them to own that change. Because sometimes you're not quite ready for what you could be or what you could do, and you have to kind of like let it settle and sink into your system, and then you step up again. So some of my clients I have seen for the best part of, wow, one of my most loves I've been seeing for about 7 years.
Wow.
And we'll do a block here, and then she'll go off and go do amazing things, and she'll come back and we'll do another block there. And then with some clients it's like 1 block of 6, you're ready to go. And I think that's part of the beauty of it as well, like meeting people where they are and what they need.
Yeah,
rather
no,
than
I love that, and I like I get that short, like short, 6 weeks, do some really work, some really tough stuff,
yep.
go away, like you said, own it, settle with it, get
Mhm.
comfortable with it, and then come back again and we'll do some more. I think that's really powerful. And I think for me, coaching sometimes can lose steam because it's like I see my coach every week or I see my coach every fortnight, and that relationship can become stagnant, can't it? Because yes, it's a journey, and I'm sure there's great coaches that do that, but for me, that makes more, it in my mind, that makes more sense. Do some hard work, and then actually what you need to do is go away and settle with that and do the stuff.
Yeah.
It's, there has to be a balance, doesn't there?
Yeah, because you do have to own it. You do have to be in charge of it.
Yeah.
In that way of, because you can end up in a relationship which can not serve your client to the best. You get sloppy, they get sloppy, all gets a bit sloppy. Nobody's really winning. As a coach, as a mentor, if I'm excited, I create better transformation for my client as well. Whereas if I get a bit like, meh, we're kind of getting into the meh, you don't really need me right now. And, they don't want me to mum them. They want me to hold the container and do the things that need to happen so that they can go and create amazingness. It's like the client is always the person that creates the transformation. I am always merely the tool. I've always said that. I'm just a tool. That's just my job. You go and do the amazing stuff and I'll just be here to help and dig in when you need it.
Oh, brilliant. And I bet it's wonderful to kind of actually to give them that rein and almost like let them go, do their wonderfulness and come back. And you kind of see that transformation. It's a bit like when you haven't seen someone for a while and they've improved their health and you're going, you're looking so well. And that must be lovely to kind of like go, right, this is what we think you're going to do. This is where you're going to go. And they come back and they've done it. And you can like, right, what can we do now? What other greatness can we do?
Constantly exciting, isn't it then?
Yeah. Love that. So, you obviously you are a kind of a one-to-one, this is how you've been working for a long time, and I understand now, a bit like me, I kind of had that same realization. It's like one-to-one is lovely, but one-to-many is better. So let's talk about, have you created the membership yet? Is it available, or are we nearly there?
We're nearly there. We're going to launch in January.
Fantastic.
Fresh head of steam. Yeah, because there's that potency of a group as well, isn't there? There's the potency of community and being supported by others. And I think that I've always found that the mentors, coaches I have worked best with have always had that element of community, that actually it's as much about everybody else in the room as it is about what that coach is doing. Because when you see other people transform, that creates amazingness as well. It's like, they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, or I want some of that.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, it's not even like a kind of an envious comparison kind of way. It's just like let's just keep on.
Yeah.
So the membership will be coming up, and it will be very much based around body awareness and body magic and being grounded, and also about looking at those sticky areas, like boundaries and priorities and relationships and all those things where we kind of let ourselves sneak away from. And actually those are the things that we could do with examining every now and again. So we'll be looking at that through the membership as well.
Oh, that's good. 'Cause I'm a bit like that. I'm very good. I'm very good at. I've got a very small group that we kind of like have a bit of an accountability call every couple of weeks. Yeah. And I admitted last month, you'll laugh at this. I admitted last month we were talking about things that we need to get done and stuff. And I'm like, well, I've got this big assignment that I need to get done in 3 weeks' time. And they were all like, well, hold a minute. I was like, yeah, well, I didn't tell you about it because I don't want you to know that I'm not doing it. And that's my like, I keep it secret so no one knows about it. And that, obviously you can't have accountability buddies if you don't let them in. But I think it is true of all of us, is that we all keep stuff, we've all got those things that we've maybe let get out of control, that we're hiding and stuff. And it's probably, although there'll be similar issues, there's similar ways to find that out, isn't there, for all of us?
Yes, and that's it. I think when you work in groups where you are all kind of coming from the same, you've all got the kind of same energy behind why you're there, that same reasoning for being there. One person can ask a question that you haven't thought of, and you get the answer for all of you. So even though you might not even be aware that that's the answer that you needed, you're like, well, store that for later. And it's just such an interesting thing working in groups and seeing how we all bring something different, that we all have a slightly different sense, and yet it beautifully kind of unravels everything for everyone. Everyone gains from it.
Without doubt, without doubt. Well, we're going to put all of your links in the show notes, but if people are interested in the membership because it's very new, well, I will make sure that I post everything about this on my page when you release it. But do you have a wait list or anything like that, or are people just best to contact you and sort of say, I'm interested, put me on the list?
Best to contact me, and I'll be able to give them more details. Yes.
And are you going to interview people so it's only the right kind of people that come in?
Ooh,
I don't give you an idea now, haven't I?
Well, this is very much like an entry to the world of body geekdom. There are other ways to work with me which are kind of more a little bit like, so let's have a conversation and see how this works. But yeah, this is like my heart project of how do we help more people feel more connected and have those knobbly bobbly tools, as I keep saying, that really support us through changing times. So
and it's so important. It's so important. We will make sure we link to everyone. And I think everybody needs a body geek in their life. They definitely do. We just need to clone you a little bit more, Carrie. That's definitely the way. We need to clone you.
That could be chaotic.
I've really, honestly, I could talk to you for hours. I am going to try and wrap it up a bit because we would be here all day, and I've really, really, really enjoyed that. Is there anything that you would, any key tips that you would give people to help them? You talk a lot about gunk. So is there I love the movement one that we just did, that breathing and kind of, experiencing that kind of how our mind affects our movement. Is there anything that you could say to people, do this and it will kind of help you, if not clear the gunk, maybe they might need some help with that, but, help them kind of keep a little bit slinky?
I would say the number one thing is learning how to breathe into your diaphragm.
Cool.
There we go. There's a whole other conversation right there. But yeah, learning how to breathe into your belly, because it switches your nervous system switches over from being in a state of to a much calmer place. And I think that's the number one tip for all of us, that we just all need to have that little moment, breathing into our bellies, allowing the vagus nerve to reset and feeling really a lot more grounded, and then being really compassionate with ourselves about the things that we ought to be doing and should be doing and all of that. And just realizing that most importantly, it's allowing yourself to be okay, even when you're not okay.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And on the breathing, I totally, because it gets oxygen, so helps us think better and stuff. So there's a few apps out there, isn't there? So box breathing is quite a nice one that I like, where you kind of, you hold your, like, breathe in and hold the breath and stuff. Is that something that you do with clients, or is it more just kind of feeling that diaphragm? Because we breathe like in our chest, don't we? And we need it much further down, don't we? So that's what we mean by diaphragm, in case people aren't sort of aware of what we mean. We're talking like when you breathe, when you're in a state of panic, you'll find that your breathing is in your chest. So your chest kind of like goes up and down. And lots of us only breathe that far, don't they? But actually we want it right down in our gut, don't we? Like right down in our belly.
It's that idea of, again, we're back to a three-dimensional human again, that instead of just allowing your belly to kind of go up and down, it's like really thinking of yourself like a barrel and filling up the barrel, and really kind of imagining that you're expanding around the sides of your body and into the back of your body, and bringing that breath all the way down. Because too many of us get caught in that reflex of breathing up in our ribs, and we get caught in that state of we're still running cortisol, we're still running adrenaline around our bodies. And that's because we haven't learned how to drop down. So there's the third stage of the stress response. After stimuli is the first, response is the second. The third stage is processing. And that's what we all need to spend more time. She says, urgent. But yeah, just giving ourselves that compassion to take some time to breathe into our bellies. It just resets everything back to a more natural place in our bodies.
Totally. Yeah. Love that.
Love
Thank you,
it.
Carrie. That's great.
Thank
It
you.
is. And like I said, oxygen flow as well. So, on a very
Yeah.
practical level, it actually helps you focus because it gets more oxygen into the blood, which gets into the brain. And yeah, and I'm waving my arms around again. If you really, seriously, the link will be in the show notes. You need to watch this video because it never has two people wave their arms around so much in a podcast as this one.
True.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So we're going to put all your links in. You're on Instagram.
Yep.
It's Carrie Ekins. I will spell it for everyone, and we'll put the link in. But so I'm just going to do my quick fire round if that's all right, and we'll collect it up. So I know you love to travel,
Yes.
and so do I. And I have to say, we really resonated with when you said we were talking about going on holiday or traveling, and it's the food, but it's also kind of the environment and the people and watching it. And that is my idea of heaven is a street side cafe with a nice glass of wine, a nice plate of tapas or whatever the local speciality is, just watching the world go by for a few hours. I'm definitely missing that. So that kind of brings me to my question, which was, what is the most memorable meal that you've ever had? A positively memorable. We don't want bad stories of memorable meals.
The first one that springs to mind is breakfast at a little shack in Luang Prabang, which is in Laos by the Mekong River, and it was half coffee, half condensed milk, and a little French style baguette.
Because they do really lovely pastries and bread, don't they?
Yeah,
And
as a
my
ex-French colony.
yeah, I've not been, and my sister-in-law said it's the most amazing bread she's ever tasted. She was like, it's just wonderful. She was trekking and she said I put on about 2 stone because I just was eating like so much bread. It was amazing.
And all the coffee has condensed milk in, so you're just like sweetness overload. It's so good.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I need to go. And food that reminds you of childhood.
Oh, my mum wasn't a particularly brilliant cook, so I'd go with toad in the hole.
No, I love toad in the hole. No one yet has said anything like dead healthy for that. Everyone has kind of either gone with like, it's been things like, like bird's custard or something.
Oh, yeah.
Or so toad in the hole is actually probably one of the better ones after you saying your mom's not a very good cook. So I'm quite impressed with that. Did you have gravy and mashed potato with it as well?
Of course, yeah.
Of course. Naturally. And my final question is, what have you got for tea?
Don't know yet. How exciting is that?
Woo!
Yay!
I love the fact you're excited about it though, because lots of people go really guiltily and they go, oh, I don't know, oh, I feel really bad now. And you're like, oh no, I can't wait to work out what I'm eating.
Yeah.
It's a new adventure.
Too right. Everything's a new adventure. What's in the fridge? Who knows?
Who knows? Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Carrie, I've enjoyed it so much. I really have. Like I said, I could talk to you all day. Links in the show notes. It's Carrie Ekins, and we spell it CARRIEEKINS. She's on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn,
YouTube.
she's everywhere. YouTube, she's everywhere. But
omnipresent.
We will put all of the links in the show notes anyway, so they can just click on. But thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been lovely.
Oh.